And good evening, good evening. How's it going? Welcome, Doctor.
Hi, Retha and CJ and everyone. Finally, I'm in.
You are in. You are in. On a day like this one, we'll invest someone else who's also doing what we're doing. We're not the only people that do what we do. And for instance, today we've got Dr. Nonhlanhla, and we're going to jump in the next 45 minutes just to know her, who she is, what she does, and why she does what she does, isn't?
Yeah.
So I am that privileged guy who has two women on board, and at an 8 o'clock, it's good times. Yeah. Right. So, Retha, let's start where you are. Where are you right now?
Me, like
Yes.
physically right now, I'm in Cape
Yes.
Town, okay? In my
Uh,
home office.
okay, you're at home. Okay, thank God you're at home. I
Yeah.
thought you were still at the office. And then, Ntlantla, where are you now? Which area are you
I'm at
based?
home. I'm at home in Pretoria in my study room.
Good. And I am based in Johannesburg. So we're touching a few cities across the country. Um, but for some people that don't know you, you're a guest today. So welcome to M5 Property Addicts. And yeah, just give us a little bit of who you are, what do you do, and where you're from.
Okay, thank you, TJ and M5 for having me on the platform. So my name is Nonhlanhla, as TJ has already introduced. So I'm a by profession, I'm a medical doctor. But then part-time, I'm a property investor. It's been 3 years now in the property game. I'm just a girl from Mpumalanga, a small town in Nefenya, a small town next to Emelo. So that's where I grew up. But then, due to school, then I moved to Pretoria. Then currently in Pretoria. So that's where I
So the funny part is that you can't mention the small town that you're from. You have to mention
am.
another small town.
No one knows a small town. It's in Feni. It's a place called Feni, but the nearest town is Emelo.
Okay, cool. And for some, a
Yes.
lot of people that do you have anyone who's from MLO? And if there is anyone from MLO in the chat, let us know if you're from MLO or anywhere close to MLO. And yeah, so Ntlela, I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions and I'll fire away until Rita jumps in here, right?
Yeah.
Um, you from a small town from MLO, but you moved to now you're in Pretoria. How did you get to be in Pretoria, or how did you get to come into the big cities, and why did you come to the big city?
So firstly, it was for school when I was doing my undergrad in medical school. It was here in Pretoria. So then after I finished, I had to go do community service, which was in Mpumalanga, back home. So I think I worked there for 2 years. Then I came back now for another job because now I'm specializing in Pretoria. So I'm working and studying part time. So it was mostly for work purposes.
Okay, cool. So when
So
you
what,
say
do
you
people not get sick in Ermelo?
There are no big hospitals that side if you want to actually study further. It's small hospitals.
So you enjoy
So that's
hospitals then?
it's a small one. So that's why I
Okay.
decided to come this side.
Ah, okay.
so you say you specialize. What do you specialize in now? I mean, we know dentists. Let me speak for myself. I know dentists, and that's kind of like it. Yeah.
So I'm studying to be a psychiatrist. So I'm doing my master's in psychiatry.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's nice. Is Reta showing any signs of wanting to join something?
I would have called her on the side already, so she's still fine.
Hey, it's still client, but what client? What patient confidentiality?
Yes, yes, yes.
You can only you can only give secrets out from my third personality, okay? Not the other two.
Noted, noted.
Cool. Kanta, when you started off your journey of self-discovering, you've left home and now you are out in the world by yourself. What was your first job, or how did you ever first earning money? if it is legal anyway, whatever that you did.
So actually, how I first earned money, it was way before I started working as a medical doctor. So I remember growing up back at home. My grandmother had a business on the side. She had a shop. She was selling. So I used to go to boarding school in high school. So over the holidays, unfortunately, I didn't have any holidays. So I'll go to the shop and work just to get extra money for the holiday when I go back to school. So that's how I first started earning my money. Then when I finished working, when I started working as a medical doctor, then that's when the big money came. But I had already started my relationship with money and being able to earn something from them. So it was from back home, I would say.
So a lot of people today, when I mean, I'm a parent, Rita's a parent. You're a parent too, yeah?
Yeah, I have a 5-year-old.
Okay,
That's
cool.
happy.
When we're talking about parenting, and when we look at the way that you were raised, at a young age, already you're being exposed to doing chores at home and going to sell and doing things like that. They think that you're abusing the child. That's the thinking today, right?
Mm.
But if you had to look back in terms of how you was raised and how you are now seeing money and how it has built you, what do you think could have potentially stuck with you then to what it's working today?
I think being able to know that, appreciate that you have to work, not really work hard, appreciate the money that you have. Because back then I was working from it. So even when I spend it, you don't just do it recklessly because you put your sweat in it. So I think I've kept that even when I started working, so that I want my money to work for me. So even starting to invest in a way of me, the money that I have to work for me, and having a way of actually being responsible about it and use it wisely. So I think that taught me good to have a good relationship about money from back then.
Okay, Rita.
Um, yeah, I think with my kids, it's like it feels like when they don't want to study, I have to threaten them that I'm going to take them to my job and they're going to work for me. So that works really well to get them to study. But yeah, I definitely think it's great for kids to understand money and where it comes from and what to do with it and have those conversations with your kids, right? Because as much as my parents, we never had those money conversations at all, ever. And funny enough, we had that discussion in the office today, and everybody, all my whole team said exactly the same thing. No matter what background you're from, we never talk to our kids about money. So it really is
Are you
awesome.
are you sure about that? Because as Black people, we always think white people do that all the time.
Nope,
No,
and that I didn't want to say it, but that was exactly the conversation today. Bunty was saying the same thing. I said to her, "No, don't assume things like that. It's not true. It doesn't happen. Money is
We thought
evil.
it
You
was
can't
from
talk
you
about
were
it."
taught from childhood.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose I think when you're sitting on the other side of the other race, you'd think like that. And I think it's just society the way it is. But you saying that you also didn't have that kind of upbringing,
Mm.
so we're kind of like in the same boat here. It looks like it.
And I was saying that, it took me 40 years to figure this out, okay? So I'm a little bit behind. I'm trying to catch up. I had to teach myself all of this, and it took me, if we don't talk to our kids, it's going to take them 40 years possibly to figure it out like me. Maybe I'm just slow. It's also possible. But, talk to your kids about money. It's important.
Yeah.
Mm.
Shanta, you started property. You say you've been in property for the last 3 years or so. Why did you start?
I think I was just curious about making money on the side, passive income to save. So then I was just looking at options there and there. Then I think property just stuck with me. I think even when you were growing up, when you started working, people will say, no, to make money, you must just buy property. That's a way of making money. So I think I was stuck in that. But then when I found some teaching, I just saw the way that everyone would say just buy property, but it depends on what property that you buy that will make you money. So then I became more interested in finding more how I can make money in property. I think it was just curiosity and just trying to make money on the side for myself.
And you probably had the conversation at home to say, we need to go and buy a property. And what did Dude say? Because when I introduced that conversation at home the first time round, it was a tough conversation than what it is today, you know. So, and I think there's many people out there whose partners, someone else might see the vision or the dream, but then the other partner is not. For you, how did you interact? Were you married at the time? Were you not?
So when I started working, I was not married. So I think at home, my uncle was always pushing me, you must buy property, you must buy property when you started working. But
Oh, okay.
I was still not sure about it because it was like you just buy this big house, not really a big house, but then you are still paying for it. So I didn't see the business. The business part of it was more long term, like with the appreciation of the property. But where I wanted something that will give me money. It's more of a business. Then when I got married, I had to introduce it to my husband, although he was not getting it in a way. But I had to explain to him that I'm looking at more into passive income, not as just buying our own home and still paying for it, but maybe getting something that will be more of a business on the side.
So was that the condition? I will marry you, but know that I come with properties.
Yes, I'm not buying anything on my name. That was the condition. Nothing on my name.
Ah, there you go. Good one.
Yes.
When you started off right at the beginning in the property space, I mean, your uncle was, you know, that guy was saying bye bye, but then when you started doing it, you know, learning and things like that, was there any form of stumbling blocks that you had along the way, right at the beginning, that you can kind of like look back and like, oh, that was so dumb of me at that time,
Mm.
or whether they were so serious at the time. But was there any stumbling blocks at all for you?
So luckily enough, when we were still in Malanga, before we moved, I was just so interested. I want to buy. But at that time, I didn't have the education. So I think I would say I dodged the bullet because I almost bought a house, but I was going to be in debt because it was not going to be making me any money. Instead, it would be like there's still a shortfall in it. So then, luckily, I moved to Pretoria, and then I don't know what I was doing on Facebook. Then I bumped into M5 Property Edit. Then I kept on following you guys. Then I went to the conference, one of the teaching Saturdays. Then I joined. Then from then, I saw this is what I really wanted to do. I wanted to buy property, but not as just a normal property where you stay in it and you pay for everything, then you wait for 10 years or 5 years to sell because of the appreciation and making money. But I wanted something that will actually make money as soon as possible. So I think getting the I would say that was a learning stumbling block, but I'm actually glad that didn't go through it. Then I think I was lucky in a way that I found the correct teaching first before buying anything.
Mm. Rita, how did you come to learn? Because now it sounds like Ntlantla, she been learning from you or from me, but how did you get to start learning?
Um, I think it's right starting off with property right from the beginning. It was almost exactly the same, just trial and error, buy a property, and then I moved out to a new house and I didn't sell that one and I rented it, and it yeah. So that was sort of the beginning phases. But then, once I decided that I wanted a side hustle, some extra income, you know. sometimes we don't like it that Facebook knows everything about us, but it was like Facebook read my mind, and it served me with that ad that said property, and that was exactly what I was looking for. And I attended a conference, a class. I then first it was, you know how it goes. At first it was a free thing, then it was like a paid weekend, and then from there I went into coaching, and I had a coach as well. That helped me through those first 6 months or so.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We really appreciate you coming through and spending your evening with us. There's many other pleasurous things that you could be doing right now, but you decide to be here. And whilst you are here, in the comments, whatever channel that you're watching us from, on the comments, you can ask any question, and we will get to those questions. But today we've got a guest. Our guest is Dr. Nonhlanhla, and she's been in property for the last 3 years, and her journey kind of like just started off, being in a try and error, and yeah, we're listening to her story, and she's just covered kind of like a background of who she is, where she is right now. And the question that I want to now ask of you, Nonhlanhla, is that you're a doctor, that's number one. You're practicing to go and make sure that those that are a little bit cuckoos are not cuckoos. But
That's not professional terminology, that TJ.
oh, sorry,
No.
I forgot what it's called. That's why I said that. So you haven't stopped learning. That's the number one thing. But also, you've been in our midst in terms of learning, and you're very active in our community in terms of learning. That's number one. But then number two, out of that, is that you're also being active in the property space. And yet, a person of your qualification, doctors are never out of a job, kind of like. I think that there are certain people in the parastatals that will never be out of a job. It's just not practically possible, not unless you're a bad person, right? Or you don't know your job. But for you to be wanting to go outside your profession to create a passive income, like I don't get that, because you are always going to be forever employed. You are always going to have more money. Where I come from, the banks are hunting for people like your professions to give them money way before even you guys start practicing, because they know that you're a sure bet, right? I know most banks in South Africa, they have programs for doctors, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's programs for doctors or certain professions where you guys are already being given a credit card, a vehicle finance, a home what. They are sure to give you a husband finance, right? Um, but then you just don't want that. You want a little bit more, and the question is why?
I think for me it was okay. Everyone knows as a doctor you work so hard. On weekends you're working night shifts. So for me it was trying to buy my time, so that even as much as I still love practicing as a doctor, just to have the option of one day to say, okay, maybe I don't want to do this call. I can just chill at home and just do a normal job like everyone else. So for me, it was trying to buy my own time. And also, if I would happen to die today, what will happen to my child? He won't inherit my degree. So as to, I just saw property was more a safer way of having to leave something for him in the future. So even if something happens to me, I can't practice. At least if I still have properties giving me money every month, I mean that is a good thing. So it was more of buying my time, and I actually used that because as doctors, as the banks are always giving you money. So I think that's how I also started, was able to finance most of my deals when I started with using the bank's money in a way. So it really worked in that favor for me.
I like that you say that you can buy your time. You know, people are like, yeah, but money can't buy you what love, happiness, and time, but it can actually buy you time. I mean, if you have enough money that you don't need to spend it on things you don't want to, and you've got those options, then technically speaking, you are buying time, which I like the way you put it. I really, really like.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like the
just
fact
having
that
the option of doing whatever you want to do at your own time.
Yeah.
I think one of my kickers that you just mentioned is that you got a 5-year-old and your child can't inherit your degree, but they can inherit you know
Mm.
the assets that you are busy working for today. But what do you property is a vast industry, right? There's many things that one can do in property. You could be an estate agent, you construction guy. There's lots of stuff. What's your thing? What do you focus on?
I'm with Retha. My coach is Retha, so all things student accommodation. So, we put students in, then you rent out the places. So it's mostly buy to let. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Okay, so you focus on buying properties, turn them into rental, but you don't rent to normal people. You rent to
Students.
adolescents.
Mm.
Um, I'm reading a little bit about the site. I got a teenager in the house, so I'm reading about a little bit the mind of the adolescents and how crazy they are. Um, you deciding to give accommodation to these people, and yet their own parents are saying, no, we don't want them here. Um,
Mm.
and you decide, no, I'll keep them in my house. And I don't even want one. I need how many? How many are your students so far? How many students do you have across board?
So in with all the properties I have, I actually was counting today. I actually never counted before. So
Yeah.
actually 59 students.
Wow. 60 students that you house.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
potentially
know.
any of these students, they can be the next Blade Nzimande or the next Cyril Ramaphosa. Like we don't know, right? Um, and yeah, why did you choose student accommodation as opposed to anything else that you could have done?
I think I just stumbled upon it, and the returns were much better compared to, I think, the normal buy to let, and the default rate. I mean, it's really minimal with students. Although there's too much work of controlling the students, there are always complaints all the time. But trust me, by end of the month, the parents are always paying, so you never get any excuses in a way. So for me, I feel like it's less stress or more stress, but more money to manage in a way. So probably in the future, I'll think of housing normal tenants. But for now, I think what works for me, I've managed to learn how the student market works. So I feel like that works for me. Maybe for someone else, it might be something more challenging. But I think for me, it's best for now.
You got 60 students on one side, you've got one 5-year-old and another elderly son that you call a husband in the house. Um, how do you balance all of that? Because that's work and you're still employed and you're
Mm.
learning to be a uh, what is that term again?
Psychiatrist.
Okay, that word there. And
That one that you need, Nick.
what was that,
The
Rita?
one that you need, TJ, that one.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you manage all of this? Because we all have 24 hours, but you're like chilled. Even like now, the way you're talking, I got 60, and you make it like seems it's so easy to do.
No, it's so stressful. It's so stressful. I don't know how I manage, but I'm just pushing it. I don't know how. I try to make time for my family and the kid. Then also I have to balance studies. Then I still have to go check on my properties that side, how they're doing. Sometimes doing viewings. I just don't know how it happens, but I'm just trying to push. I just trying to prioritize what I need to do at this moment and try not to think a lot because it can be really, really stressful. But it's really worth it at the end of the day.
Does your husband ever complain, like, is it another weekend you're going to another property? Because my wife is always complaining.
He's watching, he's always complaining. He's always like, I decide now I'm gonna bring him on with me whenever I go. Because you would understand every Saturday we have to go to Val, we have to do this. But it's part of the business. Then on that side I have to study, I have to take the kid out. So it's a chaos.
Rita, does your husband ever complain? Or it's just, it's a black thing?
It's like every time I'm like, flip, what excuse am I gonna make this time?
Yeah.
I'm
And when they
running
call
out of
you, the
excuses
caretaker is
to
calling
not.
you, there's no electricity, something happened,
Yeah.
there's plumbing at night. You're like, oh my goodness, it's
You
just
know
part
what?
of
It's
it.
like these days, I just tell him I'm going to see my boyfriend, or I just tell him I have a new boyfriend. But he doesn't believe me. He doesn't. He's like, I know you're going to property. I'm like, ah. But it feels like almost it's a better excuse to these days. Just tell him I have a boyfriend than property. Anyway.
Mm.
Yeah. So welcome those that are coming in, tuning in at this moment here. My name is TJ and my co-hostess Retha, and we've got our guest Dr. Nonhlanhla, and she does student accommodation. She's just hit us now to say that she has a cross board. By the way, she says she's never counted. I don't know why today she had to count, um, but she
Because
got
I knew you
60
were going
students.
to ask me. I knew you were going to ask me. I actually never counted. It was today.
Yeah. So with that, right? It's kind of like showing that anyone else can do it. She comes from a very small town just outside the MLO, and we're not mentioning the name of the town because you all know
No one knows
MLO.
it.
So yeah, um, but she's doing it, and it shows that anyone else who wants to do this can do it. And whilst we're having this conversation, you can ask questions on whatever channel that you're in. In the description there, you can ask a question in the comments. And at the end of this, we will definitely be asking that question can be directed to me, to Reta, or to the doctor herself, and we will try our best to obviously answer those questions for you. Um, you've been at it for 3 years, 60 students. What kind of benefits now are you seeing that when you started off your game, you were like, I want to have 10,000 Rand? Or um, I don't know, whatever benefit that you were thinking about or the goal that you were thinking about back then that you have started to realize today and 3 years on?
It's firstly just having, because I was just counting, just in 3 years, having closed like 7 deals and having 60 students. When I started, I didn't think that was even possible. So even last year, I managed to close 2 deals. I was like, oh my word, I didn't even think that was even possible. So actually, being able to do it this more and more, and it being attainable and something that is possible to do, and building equity on it, it's just, to me, that's my biggest win from this. Just to say, from how I've started 3 years ago to what I've achieved, is just something for me that's a big win.
Cool. Rita, you want to pose a question there?
Yeah, I was actually thinking, I mean, you know, I do that quite a lot. I don't sit back and think, well, what did I achieve? Um,
Hmm.
for this last year. And then because you're so busy, and especially like in your case as well, I mean, I was there as well, where I worked, I had 3 kids, like one too many. I've everything was just happening, and you kind of, with my one of my very good friends always says, you can't read the game when your head is in the scrum. So you're so busy working and continuing and just running and pushing, and sometimes you feel like, am I even making progress? And it's important to just sit back. And for you, maybe that was today, when you sat back and you're counting, and you're like, wow, I actually did a lot. I have 59 students. I've got so many deals that I've done, and all of that in just 3 years, which is really, really amazing. And well done on that. So many people will just talk and they won't take action. But yeah, I mean, my experience with you is definitely there's more action than talk, which is amazing. And that is really what makes people successful. So well done on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Retha.
You dropped a few numbers around how many properties you have closed so far, and last year you closed 2. Uh, for some other people, it's still a wishful thinking of, how do I close the one deal, right?
Mm.
Um, and if you don't mind, just pick one deal, right? Out of all the deals that you have done, whether you closed them or you didn't close them. By the way, when we're talking about closing deals, we means the ones that you actually bought, and they are yours. Um, and if we look at that, is there a practical deal that you can actually just walk us through? How did you find it? How did you buy it? Someone asked the question to say, how do you finance that? Or maybe you can cover that. And how is it working now? And if you do have numbers and you want to throw out some numbers, yeah, go for it.
Mm. I think I'll start with the most exciting one, the recent one in Cape Town. Although it was
Yeah, you just need to give us one. We are happy with one.
it is a big deal for me because I didn't think it was going to be possible, and it all happened in such a short space of time. So I think it was around October last year. So there's various ways of finding deals. You can go to Property 24, you search, or you go to the area that you are interested in. So luckily for me, I was already in the training with M5. So then you can also someone source a deal. So TJ showed me a deal that was in Cape Town that is closer to where they have student accommodation on that area. So he showed me the deal. Then when I saw do the numbers, then I just saw it really made sense. So then we approached the bank. Then we asked. I was able. Okay, it was 2.68. Yeah, 2.6 million the price of the property. So luckily, I was able to get financed by the bank 90% of it. Then there was still 90% that I still have to put out as cash. Then there was also money for transfer fees, furnituring the place and everything. So I actually needed close to 800,000 to finish the deal. So then that's when the headache started. And Rita was already away on holiday. That's where the headache started of trying to find financing for the deal. And it was such a very short space of time. But when you looked at the numbers, the returns were just too much to actually not go for it and try to look for the money for the deal. So I did a lot of proposals. I went to my friends. Some gave money, some didn't have money. I went to family. They gave me money. So I was able to raise some of the money. Then the other money we got from a private investor. So it was really just interesting, like how if you push yourself was to able to get financing from people around 800,000 money that you're getting from other people that is not yours. Then we were able to close the deal in around December and started with the renovations. I think by mid-Jan, the place was fully littered, the main part. So there was the main house and then there was a garage. So by January, the main house was fully littered. It was like 19 students. Then I think in a month's time, then we were busy with the garage conversions. Then we were able in all to get 25 students in that house. So as we speak, the house is fully lettered, and if you can do the numbers, everything looks amazing in that deal. So then the nice thing, I was able, because of the structure that I'm in, I was able to get people to assist. Because imagine it's in Cape Town, I'm in Pretoria. So to get the assistance from M5 in managing the place, it was just amazing for me. So I think that is one of the big deals that we're able to close in such a short period of time, and it's very cash flowing every month. Yeah.
On a 2.6, you indicated that you need to put in an additional plus minus 800. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you only in at round about 3 point what 3.4 3.6, right?
Yes.
Including the bank's money. The bank gave you what 2.4,
Yeah. 2.4 million.
right? So if we are to do our maths there, what's the gross income on the property?
But 97,000 a month.
Okay, you got a 97,000, that's close to 100K. And over and above that, you obviously have expenses on it. Let's just say plus minus a 30% expenses. So yeah, I mean, look, if anyone is to do the numbers there, it shows that you're doing, it's a good deal. So well done to you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's one thing to show someone a deal, but it's another thing for someone else who's going to take action on it and close it. I think a lot of people, I get fascinated with a lot of people. They kind of like send me stuff. TJ, look at this. And I'm like, why don't you just do it yourself, man? Just go and do it. But it's not a lot of people that can execute stuff. And for me, I think, yeah, that's the one thing I like about you, about some of the other people that are also hanging around. So well done on your deal. Are you happy with the deal?
I'm happy. I'm happy.
Wait till I
Something
show
that I
her the
didn't think.
financial. You might not be so happy.
It's not something I thought I would be able to do. When you showed me at first, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't really say no to TJ. So then I was like, oh, I really need to find the financing for it. And Cape Town, the prices there, everything appreciates, the equity in there. So I was like, there's no way I'm just letting it go. So I did try to push myself and just find the funding for the building. So I think I'm happy that I was able to push, because I didn't think I would be able to raise that amount.
So there's one or two people that are asking, so what's the return on investment? Retha, how do you calculate return of investment? Because we've got a 3.6. That's your capex, your entire amount of money that you spend on it. You got a rental income of 100K. So now, how do you calculate the return on investment? Because if I've got those two numbers
Yeah.
already with a 30% expense, you should be able to calculate the return on investment. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, property it's a numbers game, right? So you gotta be on top of your numbers to understand these things.
So, I mean, that luckily is a very simple calculation if you have all the numbers ready. But it is basically just your rental income that you're getting for the year minus your expenses that you're going to get for the year, right? Divided by your total amount invested. So we, as property investors, we like to do a cash on cash return. So how much cash did you put in versus the money that you'll be earning every month, your profit divided for the year, divided by your actual cash that you put into the property. And then you make that a percentage, and that is basically your cash on cash return. And that's the main thing that we're working on. So I don't know about your numbers over there, but the actual numbers for the property with the additional rooms that we were able to do there is on 34.4%.
Yeah. But I think for me, it's not always about the return on investment. It's about the progress that you're making as an individual. So I kind of like look at you and I'm like, you coming from a small town that nobody knows, and you're doing cool stuff. So the measurement for me, it's an amazing measurement other than just the numbers alone. So you're crushing it. That's my view. But then people will have different views on how these things work. Now you are in the grind. 60 students is a lot, right? Earlier on you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I can do this anytime. But what are some of the lessons that you can give those people that have never done student accommodation at all? And you kind of like say, well, if you don't do A, B, C, D, don't do student accommodation. Yeah.
I mean, you just have to start and do your homework and do your numbers. But more importantly, it's the timing and to buy for student accommodation. Just buy now, because obviously most of the students have moved in, so you won't having anyone moving in your place. So just to have the right timing around, you can start buying around October there. If you're buying for January, you should maybe be ready by then and know which institutions you're going to be catering for, what are the accreditation for it, get a good housekeeper or landlady, and just be always on top of your game. Students are always complaining, so just if there's something small, just fix it all the time. But I would advise just have the teaching before you go and start. Because I feel like if I hadn't had the teaching from M5, it was going to be difficult to actually start with managing so many students. Although at that time it was not the number that I'm busy with at the moment. But just know what you're doing, which involves getting the right teaching from people who are actually doing what you are interested in.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I appreciate the kind words. But I always say to people, we're not the only people that teach these things. There's lots of people
Yeah.
that teach. Some teach from the books. We do it. We are in the game. And we teach from a perspective of this is what we're doing every day. So we don't teach from the books alone, but we teach you the practical stuff. Retha and I, we've been at it for the last 6-7 years, going on strong. Many are lessons for us. But I can now start to be on the bench in terms of teaching, and I can bring you on because you've had 3 years of teaching. And that's how we multiply as people.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited of your journey, man. So well done. What is the one thing, Dr. Nonhlanhla, what is the one thing that you potentially underestimated when you were starting, and it is a key thing for your success?
In terms of property,
Yeah.
it's using other people's money, I think. Not using my money to buy, using the bank's money. Because in most of the deals I've had, it's mostly, okay, maybe the first ones I bought was more of a stupid way, but it was a learning curve. But I never use it. Most of the deals are no money deals. So it's either use the bank's money or you get investors. So you can't really say you don't have money to start in property. That's what I will say.
I like that. Can we jump onto the fun section, Rita, and ask some fun questions?
The fun questions. Yeah, and then I see there's some questions for her that came from the audience as well that look quite interesting.
Do you want us to start from there first, or what? Where do you want us to start from?
Yeah, let's start from there.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll up all the way to the top. And welcome to all of those guys. Johannesburg, Nelspruit, Pretoria, Centurion, Botswana. Welcome, welcome. When are we going to Botswana? I want to go to Botswana, teach some people in Botswana.
I'm planning a 4x4 trip, hopefully soon. So
I didn't say a 4x4
I'll
trip.
look up
I
there.
said, when are we going to teach in Botswana?
What? Listen, I don't go on business anywhere that's not fun, okay? So I'm happy to go teach in Botswana. I can get the guys there to pay for my holiday.
Right.
That's a
If
good
you want
idea.
free training, I'm happy to come and camp in your backyard.
Right. I am looking at all the questions that are here. A couple of people sending you some love, Nonhlanhla. There is actually a Nonhlanhla from
From the
where
same
did she
town.
say? Yeah, from the same town. Where did I see that comment? Let me just jump on into it.
Yeah, just before that one, I think.
From Fanny. There she is. Do you know this Nonhlanhla party?
Yeah, it's my mom's friend.
Oh!
I gave my mom and everyone the link to.
Okay, all right, there you go. All right, cool. There's no questions here.
Yeah, man, there is.
Where is you? Where are you looking at the questions? Hello, Lindo Kutle from
You advise on
Durban.
buying investment property just shortly after buying a home for yourself? And how
Are you,
lucky must you be to
Retha,
get
are
out?
you asking? Are you reading a question that you on the screen or a random question?
No, it's not a random question. I can't be like that. No, it's there on the screen. It's a Facebook question.
Okay, can we start with this one?
Okay, start with that.
I'd like to know what is the biggest mistake you have done in property investing. This is from Lundo Kutle in Debs.
How much time do I have?
Yeah, give us one in a minute.
My biggest mistake,
Yeah.
I think my biggest mistake was starting too big. Yeah.
But while you're answering, you are the co-hosties.
It says
You are
Rita.
not.
Who else is Rita? That's
The
me, isn't
question.
it?
It's
Or is that
Retha.
you?
Okay, all right, fine. We'll give you the opportunity, but I think the guest should be having this question. But anyway, I'll keep quiet. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be Rita first, and then Nonhlanhla can be Rita as well.
Okay, good.
Well, my biggest one was definitely starting too big in the sense that I did a development of 4 houses, and I didn't know how to do my homework properly, especially on expenses, and so I was just in over my head. And I think definitely for me that was my biggest mistake, but also at the same time the biggest blessing, because sure, the stuff I learned from there, right, you cannot get from textbooks. So yeah, double-edged sword, I would say.
Cool. Cabello, how's it going? Well, 59. I have 18 at the moment. I hope I'll get to 100. Well done. Yeah, definitely you can get there. Cabello, Rita, let's drop Cabello a message, right? In the chat there of our email address. Hello at M5 Property Varsity. Would like to host you. We like to hear stories of people. You know, you're at 18. You started somewhere else. So already there are some people here that are thinking, oops, how do I start? Right? How do I start? I'm going on here to ask some of the other question. Here's another, this is a comment question maybe. Would you advise on buying investment property just shortly after buying a home for yourself? And how lucky will you be with the banks granting you 100% loan for investments? Nonhlanhla, this is up your alley because you have done a few deals. How is the banks perceiving you?
So the banks, they look at your affordability. So let's say your affordability is 1 million rand. Then let's say you bought your house in your name, in your personal name. So let's say you bought it for 500,000. So it means your affordability that you are left with is 500,000. So if you want maybe to buy more, you can buy in a structure, which you can buy in a company. So in that way, you can actually buy four with all the banks. You can buy different four, or let's say you go to all the banks, the major banks. You can buy three of those 500,000 at the same time, but you're buying in different structures as compared to when you are buying in your personal name. If you buy another 500,000, let's say your affordability is 1 million rand, then you've reached a ceiling, you can't buy more. So what I would advise, if you still have affordability, maybe buy in a company or transfer, if it's possible, you transfer the one in your personal name and you move it into a company. Then in that way you can buy more at the same time. Because for me, that's how I was able to buy most of the deals I've bought. It was into companies, so that's why I was able to buy more at the same time. So it is
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, so the reality is that I generally don't like giving people advice because now they go like, hey, TJ said, your circumstances are different. However, there is certain principles that we all need to understand. The fact that there is what is called the National Credit Act, that it's got a limit on us as individuals, but there's no National Credit Act that limits companies. Companies are designed to be borrowing more and more money. So figure it out how it's going to work. Someone is watching from Bombela. Please share your Instagram handle, TJ. Bombela, we will do that. Let's go on. Right. Katie is asking the question. M5, when are you coming to Bombela? We're not. Come to Johannesburg.
That's actually my aunt. She's into property as well.
Oh, is that your aunt? Hey, your whole
Yeah.
family is here today, Nonhlanhla.
And we're virtual. We're actually everywhere. So
That's good. That's good. Portia saying, well done,
Yeah.
doctor. Is that your relatives as well, Portia?
That's my mom.
Oh God. Okay. Carlo saying, whoa, please go deeper, doctor. I kind of love it when you start at the numbers. Return on investment, please. Okay, good. Okay. Um, And then we've got Kwaleji is just giving up some love there in terms of your return on investment, also monthly cash flow. Komoto, hey, how's it going? Komoto is asking, when is the next workshop? Rita, you want to give them the next workshop and when they can book for the next workshop?
so that we have different kind of workshops. We have structures workshop where we talk about structures, and then we have like a beginners boot camp. All of that is on the m5propertyvarsity.com website /classes. But you'll see the menu item there on the top, and then you can get the dates for all the different classes and when they are.
Awesome stuff. We are going to put in that link just now in the comments there for you. Callum Key is asking the question. So, doctor, this is directly to you, Nonhlanhla. How far do you intend to go? The targeted number of units. How far?
Just what I was saying, I didn't even count how many units I have. I haven't thought what is the target, but just to buy more and more every year. So 2 more this year to buy. So I don't
Oh,
know
you
if
want to buy
I'll
2
buy
more
those.
this year?
Yeah, I have to buy 2 more.
All right. Where
And
to
she's
go?
not specifying how big those two are. So
Yeah.
if not careful, I'll send her 2 properties of 100 each.
No, Rita, I need to quit my day job.
Then you can, definitely.
Yes, then I can do that way.
Nompumelelo Temba is asking, how and where does one get teachings from M5 Property Addicts? Well, in the links there, we'll share that one. Would one qualify for bank finance just after getting a home loan for a residential home? I think you covered this one when the other person
Mm,
asked for a similar question. Is that correct?
yes. It depends
Yeah,
on your affordability.
100%. Let's go to Ketimbuli. Ketimbuli saying, Dr. Mtumbe, what is your best advice for first time investor? I think this is a very good question, actually.
Mm. I think just start if you know your goal. Just start as soon as you can. I wish I started as soon as I started working, but more importantly, get the right teaching. Even if you don't attend like a specific club, just continuously teaching yourself. Then I think that's I just start and like have the correct teaching so that you
Yeah.
don't have to fix the mistakes at the end.
Okay. For some reason, the sound from Nonhlanhla is not coming out great there. I don't know whether it's from my end alone. Um, but let's go. Uh, Tombeleng Kosi, I am currently doing Airbnb. High five to you on doing Airbnb. But that's a lot of headache at the moment. It will be I will it will be good moving to student accommodation. Thanks to Dr. Nonhlanhla for fueling us up. Well, okay, well done. There is someone who is doing a different strategy and they are thinking of going into another strategy. Retha, we do both of these strategies, Airbnb and student accommodation. Um, which one do you think is better?
Well, I think definitely a combination of the two is what I prefer. So during the year, we do student accommodation because that's kind of a nice steady income for you over the 10 months. And then in holiday time, in the when the Airbnb stuff is in season or picking up or busier, then your students aren't there. So you can then do Airbnb if you're in a nice area. And it sounds like she is in a nice area already. So the way Airbnb can work, then you just do that for 2 months to top up on your income. And the rest of the year you do students. So I like to do a combination of the two. But, I can't be totally like impartial. I will always pick students.
Caroline Mpembe is asking the question, how do you know that you get good profit at the end of the year with right amount of money when you invest in the property? Can I take that one? Yeah. So Caroline, um, these are the things that we actually teach. That you isn't when you're looking for properties. We call it running numbers. So you already need to know your numbers of how much you're going to buy for you to get the desired profit that you're looking for. And sometimes the property, as you run your numbers, will surprise you and it will give you a little bit more than what you're looking for. But at least your numbers that you would have run right in the beginning before you even put in an offer will give you an indication of what is the profit that you're going to get on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis. So you can predetermine that upfront. So obviously, looks like you've never done this before. I would suggest come to class. You will not regret learning it all. Okay. I'm going to go into another person here, and they're asking the question, how to explain a 50-50 deal on an investor and who owns the house between you and the investor? This question here was probably going through to the good doctor. Um, but yeah, Retha, you could possibly take this one. I think it's a multifaceted question where they are asking, explain a 50-50 deal. We don't have 50-50 deals, yeah? Um, we don't do 50-50 deals. But maybe explain the concept of an investor who owns the property when an investor comes on board? I think that's the real question here.
Yeah, so I'll try and do a quick 1 minute summary. So, but it can get very tricky and depending on the situation and all that. But normally, if you have an investor, they can come in and invest in pretty much two ways. They can be a co-owner in the property. So, and you might have that in a company. So both of you own shares in the company that owns the property, which means you both own the property. Okay. And then now the 50-50 part comes in. Okay, in terms of shareholding, we don't do 50-50 shareholding because then you could always be in a deadlock and in a tough situation that becomes a problem and you're stuck forever with that problem. However, in terms of 50-50, it doesn't matter. You can still split the profit 50-50. So depending on what each party gives in terms of effort and time and money, you might end up with a 60-40 split or a 50-50 split or whatever. But that just depends on the situation and what each party is basically bringing to the table. So I will always, when somebody approaches me with that, I'll be like, okay, well, what are you going to do? What are they going to do? Document it. If they're going to give time, how they're going to get paid for their time that they're spending on this thing. If they're giving money, are you going to pay interest on that money so they get a reward for that, for taking that risk with the money? So it's all about that in terms of how you end up splitting it. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you on that. Then Callum Key is asking, can you guys help me to invest in SA as a foreigner, like here in Botswana? Yeah. What are the pros and cons? Well, look, you can reach out to us. The email address is there, and we can look at your circumstances in terms of how you can invest. And we'll obviously need to understand your circumstances of wanting to invest, whether you want to invest on a cash basis or whether you want to invest via credit. So we can have the conversations there and we'll see which one is the best route for you. And it looks like the doctor is back. Logisani is asking, I would like to have a face-to-face interview with you. Do that, I can be able to express my situation. So Retha, there is Logisani there. He wants to have a face-to-face. Cape Town, right? So he can come through to Cape Town for that.
Yeah.
All right. Someone is saying here, this is almost like a general comment, I think. Hi, sis Dr. Retha and my big uncle TJ. I like it when they call me big uncle TJ because it means it's different levels. It's first big
Next
uncle,
level.
big,
You're next
then
level now.
yeah. Thanks very much. How do I get my coaching program, not hourly session? I am doing my buy-to-let. Cool. You want to take that one on the coaching?
So very, very exciting. We have revamped all of that. So I think it's best to go onto the website, propertybossy.com, read through the options on there's 3 levels of the coaching program that you can go through depending on what you want. And then if you want to discuss that further and we can do a roadmap for you, then give me a call. I dropped my personal link so you can book time in my diary. We'll have a quick chat and we can map out a roadmap for you.
Okay, cool. I am going to take the last question. Are you reading anything, Dr. Ntembo? I think this one we can answer that one a little bit more when Doctor is back. And the good fella 36 is asking, how could a US citizen invest in SA real estate? We've got on our fund, we've got a couple of US citizens that have invested with us there on the co-ownership. Or some South Africans that are used to stay here but are now staying overseas. So yeah, you can reach us on our email address and we can set up a session to understand how best you'd like to invest because there is different options, but basically, yes, it is possible. TJ, please briefly explain installment sale for a property and how one would approach a seller with this method of buying. Clinton, I would love to do that in the time that we do have. We've already gone over, but for 297, you can go on and learn about it. There's a course that we've actually done to explain that in depth, right? And I'm going to bring back the doctor. Doctor, we've got about 5 minutes for us to close. The network wasn't playing nice with you there.
Yeah.
And someone has asked the question. We normally finish at 9 o'clock, but because you are here today, we are going to go over a little bit. Is there a book that you are reading to improve yourself? Someone asked us that question. Are you
Apart
reading
from
anything?
medical books, that is, business books.
My husband is actually laughing at the background.
Yeah.
If I'm not reading Introduction to Psychiatry, I think one book I don't really read much, to be honest. But one book that has really stuck with me is the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad book. I think that's one really made when I started my property journey. It's the one that really inspired me. But I try there and there. But to be honest, my medical books are too much for me at the moment.
What advice would you give your younger self? I know you're still young, pretty, and all of that, but if you had to look back at your time, when you were much younger, just coming out of MLO, with what you know now today, um, what advice would you give yourself?
It's just to start a bit earlier. Like as soon as I started working, I could have started at that time. I could be, I don't know how many students I'll be having, or how many properties now. So if I had started a bit earlier, I would be more far.
I kick myself on that one too all the time. I wish, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Yep, that's a definite.
But anyway, you've started to always start somewhere. Because
100%. Um, in terms of, I'm sure you have seen quite a lot of people that are successful, and you are on that journey too. Um, what do you think separates those that are successful versus those that are not?
sure, it's quite a difficult one.
It's not.
Um,
You're killing 60 beds at the moment. Come on.
I think it's having a vision of what you want and sticking to it, which includes a lot of, what can I say it? You need to have, you know what you want and just work to it. So just manage your time and just keep on pushing. I know it's not easy at times. You feel like you want to stop, but if you have your vision in mind, just keep on pushing, I think.
Mm. What does success look like for you?
Sure. Oh, probably owning my time, having to go on holiday whenever I want, just being, just having money and being able to buy the things that I want and just buying my own time. I think that's the most important thing. That's what success will look like to me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Dr. Nonhlanhla, thanks for coming through onto our channel and us having the conversations. And thanks for being you in terms of pushing. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, how
Hmm.
best can they get a hold of you? Either be it to do business with you. Um, Hopefully, it's not on the what side.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's on the property side. But if
Yeah.
anyone wants to do business with you, how best can they reach out to you?
Okay, so I've already put on my number on this. So that's my phone number. People can contact me, and there's also my Facebook and Instagram page. So as I said, we are looking to buy more property this year, two more. So we'd actually use people who want to join us to partner with funding. So there's more opportunities there. So they can contact me on this number and also on my Facebook and Instagram page.
Awesome stuff. Retha, anything there from your side before we close?
No, it was fun. It was really amazing to be here and listening to your story, because I didn't, as much as we've worked together now, I haven't heard a lot of it. So it was very interesting. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much.
Awesome stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That was Dr. Nonhlanhla. You can give her some love there wherever you are. You can either throw in some heart, some appreciation. And thanks a lot for sharing your story. And I know that a lot of people have, you have inspired a few people here. You look at the comments. We didn't go through all the comments. But to me, it just shows that if one sets up something, their mind on it, you can do it. But above that, just make sure that you're working with people that are already doing what you're trying to do, so that the road to success is easier or it's faster. And that's my only last comment. So until we see each other on the next video, it is
Bye bye, virtual
and
five.
Bye. Good night.